Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Stargirl. This is going to be my review for episode 12, the second last episode of the season, the penultimate episode, otherwise entitled Stars and Stripe, Part 1. So Part 2 is next week. But of course, spoiler alert, if you've not watched the episode, just go. Come back to this video after you've watched the episode because we're going to be talking about everything in detail, or for the most part in detail. But of course, if you have watched the episode, you are continuing on with the video. It would be awesome if you could let me know your various opinions in the comments section down below about the episode. What you like the most, just your favorite moments, any issues you had as well, let me know in the comment section down below. Just give me your overall thoughts on the episode down there. And of course, let me know any theories you have leading into part 2, because obviously this episode is pretty much, well, it's part 1. It almost feels like half an episode or half of a big episode because it's setting up a lot of stuff for next week. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support for the channel and just the Stargirl videos in general. Just if you liked the episode, drop a like on it. But of course, last episode was the big Shining Night episode where we got some light shined on the night. See what I did there? Yeah, it was terrible. Let's move on. So we got some focus on that and obviously dealing with pretty much everything that happened previously in the season in regards to Courtney and her heritage, thinking that she was the daughter of Starman, that this was like a legacy thing that was happening there, when it really wasn't. The staff just chose her. So she's the reason she's Stargirl, not because of any bloodline or anything like that. Dealt with her ass of a father. Obviously saw Pat socking one in the face, which is also very redeeming and very, honestly, it was pretty pleasurable. Let's be completely honest. A lot of pleasure was felt when that punch was hit. So let's just be completely honest there. But like at the beginning of this episode, we had a recap. I think this is the first time we've had a recap before an episode. So I think it's the first one we've had at least. So they are really treating this as a 2-part finale. This is a part of the finale, and we're getting a recap of what's happened previously in the season. So I was sort of like caught off guard when that happened, but it was like, okay, that makes sense though. But we do pick up the episode with 12 hours to go until Project New America kicks off. Obviously, last episode, it was, I think, just under 13 or just under 14 hours until the project was going to be starting. But we have Sportsmaster and Tigress being set off and tasked with taking out the Dugan and Whitmore household. Now, most of the Injustice Society is at work, so if you're a current living member, haven't been killed off yet, you were doing something for the most part. Now, if the plan goes through, the developed minds in the affected states, we'd heard this previously in another episode, but the developed minds in the affected states will side with the ISA, they'll think like them, and if needed, they'll fight for the Injustice Society, which would most likely end up being the case. I think Icicle brings this up, saying that the other half of the country that isn't affected most likely wouldn't agree with those values that are being set up, through this plan. So you're not only getting people to side with you, you're also potentially getting a lot of soldiers for yourself. Now, we did have Courtney and Barbara packing to leave Blue Valley to go quote-unquote camping, even though I'm pretty sure that they were just packing to go to that cabin, with Pat taking Mike to the shop and just explain in general what's been going on and why he's been left in the dark and everything like that. So like show him Stripe and all of that. Now, Mike's just frustrated in general with being left in the dark all the time. I can see some people getting angry because he blew up, but I think Mike has the right to blow up. But I'm just like, Mike, if you just listened 5 seconds later, you would have seen the robot and everything would have been explained. So a bit of impatience there from Mike. But of course, we had a Sportsmaster versus Pat fight, as well as Tigress versus Courtney. They were sort of done in a parallel nature, which I thought were pretty cool. Now, both were very good fight sequences. I thought they were pretty cool. I think I prefer the Stargirl and Tigress fight just the tiniest bit more, and that's mainly due to the staff being used in a fairly cool way, especially with Barbara being around there. But the Pat fight was cool with Sportsmaster. It was good to see Pat in a fight outside of the Stripe armor, even though he sort of did get his ass handed to him by Crusher in a pretty big way. Now, one moment I wasn't expecting was Mike with the drill. I didn't think that drill was going to come back into play after Mike was playing with it, but he shoves it into Sportsmaster's back, a couple of inches to the right or left. I can't remember which side he hit him on, but a couple of more inches to the other side, and Mike would have hit the spine. He would have had a disabled Sportsmaster, so I don't know if he wanted to do that or not. Anyway, maybe he was not aiming for the spine. I don't know, but we have Mike learning about Stripe, and he's like, wow, that's pretty cool, that's pretty damn badass. And let's be completely honest, Stripe is pretty badass. Now, one thing I wasn't really expecting, even though I should have expected because we should have expected like setup, but that was Principal Bowen going to her office with her son Isaac, waiting there after being bullied and just tormented by someone in school. And she tells him a story about his father and how he got picked on, telling him that people stopped bothering him after he shoved the bow of his violin into one of the people's eardrums. And then Isaac sort of like stares at his trombone. I'm like, I don't know what you're going to do with that unless you shoved that over someone's head and like crushed in there or something. It's obviously setting up Isaac for next season. He is the real fiddler in the comics, so I think the trombone was almost like a comedic thing, because I was like, what are you going to do with that? But yeah, I think they're setting him up for next season, especially with something else that happens in this episode, which we'll jump into soon. Now, we have Brainwave blaming Cindy for him having to kill his son, which, like, it seems like he's just blaming everyone apart from himself. I'm like, mate, you're the one that put the rocks on him. You crushed him. You literally did that. Anyway, he tells her that pretty much everyone on the ISA thinks that she's a failed experiment, that including her father. Now, I'm sure that will bode well come next season, if not in the finale next week. But I don't think Cindy is going to forget that too easily. Now, we had the testing of the ISA's plan. It was very cool visually. It was a very cool scene visually. Obviously, the big room was very much like Cerebro. I brought that over my trailer breakdown. I think a lot of people will notice that. If they didn't watch the trailer breakdown, you'll see it in the episode and go, oh, so we're in Cerebro now. Now, the test works, but there is only just under 9 hours to go. So the clock is ticking fast. It's not long until this goes down, and on the edge of our seats. Now, we did have Courtney, Pat, the rest of the family, and the other JSA members show up to a cabin in the woods. Obviously, this is where I think they were going quote-unquote camping. With Sir Justin showing up as well with the KFC, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think Justin is now the MVP of the episode. Certified hero bringing in the KFC. Apparently, KFC sucks in America. That's what I've been told. In Australia, it's like literally the go-to fast food. It's the best fast food in Australia. So I'm sitting here clapping, but I don't know if Americans would agree, because from what I've heard, it's not that good over there, which is weird because it originates from there. Anyway, now we had Mike pondering over what could have been if the cosmic staff had picked him, which is sort of a flip on the comics, where Mike is like super triggered about not taking up the mantle that Courtney has, being extremely jealous. And in the comics, there's no staff. Like, the staff comes later in Courtney Whitmore's journey, so it's like the cosmic converter belt, the belt that she has. And he actually breaks it in a tussle with Courtney. I think this was a much nicer way to go about it. It made Mike more likable. In the comics, he's not extremely likable. He is a bit of a brat. So I think this is the much better way to go about it. Now, one moment I was like, oh, okay, you're doing this now, is when we had Principal Bowen showing up to the Whitmore household after they've left, showing up to make sure that Sportsmaster and Tigress succeed the second time around in their task. Obviously, Icicle had heard, I think it was from the gambler, that they'd failed. Now, the two don't take it too well when she questions their parenting methods and just their methods in general. And wow, Tigress just kills her, shoots her with one of the crossbows. One of the arrows from the crossbow. Wow. Another ISA member killing a fellow member. Interesting. They don't seem to care too much. They do linger on that violin case as we fade away from that scene, which most likely is saying, hey, that's going to be coming back into play. So I do wonder if her son randomly finds it, which would be random, seeing that it was at a person's house that he would have never been to. But I would assume that he finds out his mum's dead, and that the violin case was there. So he's given the violin case as it was Wally's father's before, and then also his mother's. So I think we might see that in the finale. So that would be setting up season 2, just like how that scene in the principal's office would have been setting it up as well. Now, we did have the scene with Pat telling Barbara why he didn't tell her everything and before. And I think what he said made complete sense. He was moving on from everything, leaving all of that in the past. And pretty much everyone that was connected to the JSA previously had been taken out. So I think this was a good way to leave that all in the past. And it was a way for Pat to potentially live a new life. And obviously, him moving to Blue Valley, he didn't think all of this was going on. Like, this was just a horrible coincidence, you could call it. So he thought they'd all moved on from Blue Valley, but they're actually residing here. So it's just unfortunate that it played out this way, but he wasn't trying to bring the family into all of this. Now, we did have Justin being fairly curious about Rick's work on his father's notebook, and they were missing a number on the final equation thing. Now, I thought Justin was going to help, but it was with Pat's help and the realization that the 66 Mustang is the key. The equation is solved, and the equation actually led to a map of the tunnels below Blue Valley. Now, it's a way for the JSA to access where the ISA is plotting, and it's a big hand. They're actually able to sort of pretty much find out roughly what the ISA is doing, at least with the device. Now, the JSA do take different routes through these tunnels that, Rick was able to help find through the equation in order to avoid detection, with Barbara and Beth learning when and what the ISA is doing. Now, the manifesto for this plan from the ISA makes it sound like what they are doing is for good, like the good of mankind, the good of the planet, renewable energy, peace, equality, everything like that. However, regardless of that, whether you're doing the best thing in the world, the big thing with all of this is that 25% of the people targeted, over half of the country, 100 million people, 25% of those people are going to die. Obviously, 25% of 100, 25 million people will be killed by the ISA with this plan, regardless of what they're doing. They're going to be curing world hunger, I think, and you have to be like, hold on, we can't let that happen. You can sort that out another way. So this plan has to be stopped regardless of the intention. And obviously the manifesto, it's probably BS, let's be completely honest. However, the plan starts with 30 minutes to go on the countdown. It's not a countdown to 0 and then the plan starts. 30 minutes and then the plan is finished. The 0 countdown is when the plan is done. So the actual plan starts with 30 minutes to go on the countdown. The plan starts. Barbara, Justin, and Pat are just 3 of the people that we see are affected. Obviously, everyone in Blue Valley would be over that age, would be affected, and I guess if we're just doing an average, 25% of them will die. But we see Pat affected, and Stripe, because Pat's in there, is taking control of them or by them, and he attacks Stargirl, which is a thing in the comics. It's done in a bit of a different sort of way, but sort of similar at the same time. But yeah, Stripe attacks Stargirl, and that's when we fade to black. That's the end of it. Wow. Now, overall, this episode was just part 1. It was almost like the pilot. I think episode 1 and 2, is just a really, really long episode. It sort of just cuts off there. And I think this is the exact same way. It's actually sort of funny how part 1 ended with Stripe landing and Courtney was sort of intimidated. And then part 1 of the finale is Stripe actually attacking Courtney. So, I thought this was a really solid episode in regards to setting up, and it also just closes off some storylines as well leading into season 2. Obviously, I think we'll get some follow-on from them in the finale to lead more into season 2, but if that was it, in regards to the Principal Bowen stuff, and they did nothing with it in part 2, I think that would be fine. You'd be like, okay, well, they're going to pick up with that in season 2 and various things like that. I think the major setup in the finale will be, in regards to season 2 stuff, will be stuff around maybe Icicle Jr., maybe Artemis, and various things like that. And obviously, I think Cindy as well, setting up some of the younger members, but also keeping some of those older members around as well. But I am interested to see which ISA members bite the dust. I think we might see 1 or 2 of them die. Maybe not in the hands of the JSA, but maybe at their own hands, them being a bit greedy and a bit too power hungry. We might see some people bite the dust and be vaporized, maybe. It's going to be interesting, but I really enjoyed this episode. I'm just going to give MVP to Sir Justin, bringing in the KFC, bringing the feast in. Couldn't do a better job. Good on you, Justin, and cleaning the bathrooms as well. Keep it nice and tidy. So I'm excited for next week's finale. Can't wait to see how they wrap the season. I've loved Stargirl this season, really enjoyed it, never found a dull episode, and I just can't wait to see how they wrap it all up. And it's going to be sad because it's probably going to be gone for about a year, roughly, just under a year until we get season 2, but hopefully they leave us with the most annoying cliffhanger possible that we'll be sitting there going, man, can you just show us more? But yeah, guys, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions about this episode. What you love, what did you hate? Various thoughts down there in the comments. And what are your thoughts leading into the finale? Any theories? Also leading into season 2 as well. Maybe from the finale, let me know all your various opinions down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.